Let's see everybody shimmy. It is another episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me and the Shimmy King, Steven Robles. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I was shimmying at the beach yesterday because I live in Florida and you can do that. And I got a little red. I don't know if you can see. It's a little sunburned.
It's kind of like the beach here in that it's been raining, so everything is wet. So
yes.
I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, something like that. It's raining here now in Florida, but we went yesterday. It was.
It's Florida. It rains for 30 seconds and it's dry for 5 hours, and it rains for 20 seconds.
Yes.
Pop up freaking showers like crazy.
Quick story. I grew up in New York, and we came down here for college. A friend and I, we were roommates. He had a Jeep. And he loved not having the top on because that's what you do with the Jeep. You take the top off, you take the doors off, you take as many things off as you can to drive it around. We did not realize Florida thunderstorms literally occur out of nowhere. And so we were driving downtown, stuck at a red light. It was like blue skies, and then we blinked, and a thunderstorm was right over us, dumped on us. Just totally soaked us, the Jeep. We had to pull into a gas station, try to get the soft top on. But yeah, that's Florida for you. Just changes like that. Changes like that.
Yeah, for our what do you call it? Kind of like a honeymoon trip for my wife and I. But we went down to Florida. We went down to the Keys, diving, all that kind of stuff like that. And Faith rented us a Wrangler, so we had all of our scuba stuff in the back, and we're heading down to Key West at one point. And yeah, we're going down the one road with the top off. It was great, so much fun. And Faith is keeping such an eye on the weather, and she's top's got to go on right now. So we pull over to the side, we threw it on. 2 minutes later, it starts pouring. Wow. It was perfect timing.
That's great.
Did not get soaked.
Nice.
We were prepared, but we did understand how thunderstorms work in Florida.
Yeah, she had that sixth sense.
And then it was gone.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
5 minutes later.
Now
gone.
I've developed it. Now I can smell the rain coming. It could be I could be inside in a bunker and it's about to rain.
Your hair stands on the
yeah,
end.
Exactly. It's like spider sense. That's the one thing you get from living in Florida.
Florida sense.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah.
That would be a terrible superpower if that was your only superpower. Is Florida sense. That's terrible. Anyway, I'm excited. Later we're gonna be talking about. Look at this. I got switches coming out of everywhere, and we're gonna be talking about those later. And
I know, and we got a lot of feedback on the three-way stuff. I don't know how many things you got, but man, my Twitter DMs, emails, all sorts of things. Fun stuff, dude.
People had thoughts about Leviton, about Wemo, about Merit. Everybody had thoughts. So it was awesome to hear that feedback. But yeah, we will talk about an update in a minute. 2 5-star review shout-outs today. Sophie Toss 78 from the USA and I Gauge It both gave HomeKit Insider 5-star ratings in Apple Podcasts. So thank you guys for that. Keep those coming. We appreciate it. And we got 2 pieces of news. I'm so excited for the second one because I feel so justified. Also, it came out right after we recorded last week. But anyway, before we get to that one,
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
SelectBlinds.com, which is an online retailer of blinds here in the U.S., is now offering Eve MotionBlinds. You can buy it directly from their website. There's a couple models available. So just nice to see smart HomeKit blinds being available even through third-party retailers like SelectBlinds.com. You can get the roller shades and motion blinds and all that. So just want to point out, if you were in the market for these, you can now go to SelectBlinds.com. There you go.
Yeah. I thought they were announced as one of the launch partners, but maybe they just didn't have them in stock right away. Because I remember writing about them, I thought, as one of the options, but they just might now have availability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're all through third parties.
Right.
You can't buy these direct through Eve. They're all
Right.
through third parties because they basically sell the motor, the internal part, to blind makers who just release their versions of the motion blinds.
Right. I will say I just went to SelectBlinds.com and they have a 30% off and BOGO half off deal going right now. So what would normally be close to $600 is $300 something for some of these HomeKit blinds. I might need to jump on this. Excuse me one second. I'm going to have to add to cart. No, I'm not going to do that.
You're going to pull out a measuring tape.
I need to go to my house and actually measure it because I don't know what they are right now. That would be terrible. But anyway, that's a good deal. Hopefully that's still going on as when the show airs, listeners. But I would buy it on the show if I had the measurements right now. But anyway, all right, SelectBlinds.com. Now this next piece of news. I don't know how we do this, Andrew. I think whenever we want to hear big HomeKit news and smart home news, we should try to record a show. We should, because whenever we record a show, big news always drops right after we record.
Yeah. For anyone wondering timeline wise, we happened to record that day and we finished at like 9:01 or something in the morning. Like we had record, like we don't even record that early, like usual time. That time we just happened to record earlier in the day, and yeah, so we get done, we recorded, and then like at literally 9 on the dot, what's Jennifer Toohey come out with, Steven?
She says that Matter, the smart home standard that is supposed to unify the universe, that is supposed to bring all these things together, the bastion of light that is Matter, is delayed again. Delayed until fall. It's supposed to come out in summer, but now it's going to delayed 6 more months to sometime in the fall. And I said, Matter, believe it when I see it. That's the tagline. So I'm sticking to it.
And they're citing like profound interest or something, or unexpected interest in this standard. Like, which makes sense because it's been hyped up by so many people, including us. And like it's gotten nowhere. So they say there's just too much interest that they're not able to get everything done, which partially makes sense because they do have like, if they've got just a freaking influx of companies that are all trying to get certified and participate and stuff like that, it's going to make things complicated, slow things down, but also cut the BS, give us the standard and let us start like playing with stuff instead of like you haven't even certified the standard yet.
Right.
To certified products. So what is like this additional interest have anything to do with like okaying the standard and certifying the standard before getting through to products? So I don't know. It sounds a little sketchy, but yeah, I love that we talked about this. Like, no, it's still coming. They say the middle of the year. You know, we shouldn't have expected it now. Everything's fine. And then we hit end record, go to news. Son of a...
And profound interest. This is profound delays. That's what I say. Profound delays. So the actual quote, Jennifer Toohey had the article in The Verge, said, Michelle Mandala Freeman of the Connectivity Standards Alliance, which oversees Matter. So it's a lot of big words, but she's on that alliance that oversees Matter. She says, quote, additionally...
The CSA,
what's that?
Right? CSA,
yeah, CSA.
The Consumer Standards Alliance or something.
She says that, quote, while the feature set for the Matter specification is complete, more time is needed to work on a few key areas of the SDK, which is the software developer kit, to stabilize, tweak, tune, and improve quality in the code, end quote. So it's like she's saying the feature set is complete, which I guess fine, like whatever. I mean, yeah, what devices are you going to include? But the SDK, where developers of products would actually use that SDK to incorporate Matter into their products, is still being developed, which then I have, again, more questions of like products that have said, yeah, we're going to support Matter. They don't even have the end SDK. They don't have the final SDK.
No, that's what we've been saying this whole time, is they don't have the SDK. They can't. I just find it really suspicious when products are like, we are 100% ready to go with Matter day one, stuff like that, when they don't even have the SDK in hand to even know for sure whether their products are going to fully support it.
And then I thought it was hilarious. More news even came out later that week that, oh yeah, and by the way, Matter is going to support even more sensors when it launches, if it launches, like occupancy sensors, contact and motion sensors, which... You know, they could, great. I mean, it could support every single smart home product, but it doesn't exist yet. So now, you know, fall 2022, I feel like, what was the initial deal? Wasn't it supposed to be like 2021? It was supposed to be like last year, like when Matter first was announced?
I think it's supposed to come out with like, fall 2021. So it's roughly a year behind schedule.
Well, roughly a year as it stands now. Matter, I'll believe it when I see it. So, yeah, I would... you know, when you're thinking about buying products, we always talk about don't buy a hardware product with a promise of a future software update. I would also, you know, not buy a product that might support Matter or claims to support Matter, hoping it will one day get into the Home app or HomeKit because it supports Matter. You know, I'd think if you want HomeKit stuff, buy HomeKit stuff. And hopefully maybe one day, you know, you'll get access to other devices because of Matter. But I'm buying all HomeKit first, personally, going forward.
Yeah, that bears repeating. Like, for HomeKit users, stick with HomeKit, because that's not going to... When Matter launches, something works with HomeKit, it's not going to make a difference whether that product supports Matter. So, like, Wemo switches that we're going to be talking about, like, yeah, they're going to support Matter. But right now, that doesn't mean diddly to HomeKit users, because they already fully support HomeKit, including updates through the Home app for firmware. And when Matter comes out, all it's going to do is bring support to other ecosystems like SmartThings or Amazon's Assistant, stuff like that. So with HomeKit, as long as you're buying a HomeKit product, it honestly does not matter all that much if it supports Matter. This is really for things that, like, to gain access to new accessories, like you said,
Right.
Steven. The one I'm most excited about still is RoboVax, and I'm not even 100% if those are included in the initial
Spec.
Matter rollout, but it is like in the logo. I'm pretty sure, like in some of the logos I see where they have like literally a robot vacuum
Okay.
on the Matter thing with like various smart home
Okay.
accessories. So I'm hoping that is in there. But I've been using now that a few reviews come out, I feel like I can say something about it. But I've been using that Roborock Max V Ultra, S7 Max V Ultra. I think it's like the full name. The one that will wash your floors, mop it, vacuum, all that, and then will like clean itself and empty everything. Then we talked about it with Jennifer, and it's been so awesome. And I love that you can tell it like room by room. So I can just say, you know, Siri, clean the living room, and the vacuum like instantly wakes up, finds its way to the living room, and then mops and vacuums the living room.
That's
It's
pretty cool.
incredibly cool. And I mean, honestly, works great with the Siri shortcuts. So I wouldn't, even if it adds, you know, Matter support and gets in there natively, it probably isn't a huge difference for me because Siri shortcuts work so well. But for anyone else who doesn't have that vacuum or like lesser vacs that would add Matter support, it's really cool.
cool.
It's an awesome feature, and this is something that I've been asking and wanting for a long time. And all the other RoboVacs I've tested had not had that Siri shortcut feature. So I'm excited this one does, and I want to see more vacuums update with Matter to do this because it's pretty cool.
You know, that was a good thing. You mentioned a second ago, you know, when something supports HomeKit, you don't have to worry about what a manufacturer does in the future because HomeKit will still have control over those devices. And we actually had a listener send this in a couple weeks ago. Chris Young on Twitter sent us a screenshot of an email he got from IHome, which is a smart home brand. I remember IHome, you had like smart plugs and IHome motion sensors. And their email said the iHome Control app and iHome Cloud service that supports their devices will be terminated April 2nd, 2022, like this year. So in a couple weeks, the iHome app and service is gone, but iOS users can continue to use HomeKit. And so if you had an iHome plug, which I feel like maybe I had an iHome plug back in the day, but if you had an iHome plug...
Okay, you say back in the day, iHome was known for like clock radios.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's what they were known for.
Yeah.
That was their niche. Was they made all of the 30-pin clock radios.
Yes.
You can still find them in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Like they literally make specific ones for the hotel industry that have certain features that like lock them down so you can't change time and stuff like that. And that can reset. So they have a whole thing with like hotel industry, but that is what they are known for. And then they randomly branched out to smart home stuff with like motion sensors and smart plugs, but that was really it. They never got beyond those things. And I think they had the outdoor connectors too. But HomeKit still working even after they shut down their entire like smart home
Exactly.
division.
And again, coming back to Matter, you know, if you buy a device that's not explicitly HomeKit but supports Matter, I don't know how that would work in the future. You know, if something like an iHome plug got into the Home app because of Matter integration, but one day iHome shuts down, will that device, because it was through Matter, still have control in HomeKit, or would it affect kind of the whole stack? Those questions will be a while before we can answer because we have, one, Matter has to come out, if it comes out, and two, see what happens with those devices after maybe that company stops making the product. But again, just one of the benefits of HomeKit is that even if you have an iHome smart plug, even though their service is shutting down, even if they never sell another plug, your smart plug will continue to work in HomeKit. You can use it in automations. You can do whatever you want. Nothing changes in HomeKit because of that integration. So that was worth saying.
Yeah, and to be clear, that would also break their support for things like Amazon's Assistant and Google Assistant. So I believe those will no longer work now that iHome has shut those down because you need those cloud services to connect to Amazon's cloud services or Google's. So with the HomeKit, it's not a thing. You don't got to worry about it. And we saw similar things when the Insignia brand like canceled all of their interior smart plugs and stuff, broke all of those. HomeKit still worked just fine.
So we will see if we hear anything else about Matter, its demise or its announcement. We will let you know. But it seems all we hear about Matter is how it's delayed. So, but a great article again from Jennifer Toohey. She was on the show. You can look back at our episodes. It was fun to have her. And then maybe we'll have her again if Matter ever launches. We could have her to talk about Matter. Just jamming.
By the way, the one thing that I was excited about, I feel like it was a known, but maybe it wasn't, because I assumed it was a thing. In your list of like the new categories, right? You've got door lock, which I think is a big one. I think a door lock is a huge, because there are limited door locks in HomeKit as it is. So I think that's a really good category to add. Maybe open that up quite a bit for HomeKit users. Though if they just support Matter, it doesn't mean they're going to support things like HomeKey.
Yeah.
So
one interesting thing too, in that article about the other compatible devices with Matter, there's a screenshot. I had forgotten that Apple actually mentioned Matter by name at WWDC in 2021 last year.
Yeah.
So now I'll be very curious if this WWDC, if Apple mentions Matter at all, or if it's just like gone, like if it's just gone from the keynote. So I would be curious. I'd be curious if it comes back.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm pretty sure we said that a couple others ago. I told you that. Well, Jennifer was saying like, oh, Apple's been silent on that front. Like, that's because it's a developer thing. It's something that they talked about originally at DubDub, and they're gonna talk about it likely again at DubDub. It's ported right now in iOS 15. I think I would expect there would be some, even if it's in a specific dev session, they're gonna have to talk about it with HomeKit, because we do need more details, and device manufacturers need more details on what that certification process is going to look like, if they have to have a second HomeKit certification process, and how they integrate HomeKit specific features versus Matter features. Looking at door locks, Matter may support open and close status or lock and unlock status, but HomeKit also has like the sharing of keys with HomeKey and things like that. So we'll have to see. I'm sure Apple will share more.
Well, this Matter discussion is making me sad. So, Andrew, let's talk about something that's exciting, something that's brand new. We have never talked about this before. We just talked about AirPlay speakers on last week's episode, and incredibly, we have a new friend this week on the HomeKit Insider show. Why don't you tell me about Dio?
Dio, these look incredible to me. I saw these, and I was like, this looks awesome. These are very affordable AirPlay speakers. So you can set them up around your house, AirPlay to them, don't have to worry about any extra apps or anything like that, just immediately cast to them. And I know we usually just like say the price at the end of a spot, but holy crap, man, these are $239 for a 3-pack. $239 for 3 of these AirPlay enabled speakers, which I think is awesome. And they look pretty slick. They are like rounded squares with a grill in the front. They look like a really neat speaker, so I'm pretty excited about these. These got my interest.
Absolutely, and for our listeners, this might just sound like more news, because we are excited about it because it's legitimate news also. But they actually sponsored this show, and it is an AirPlay speaker that is affordable, and a feature actually is that there's no microphone, there's no smart assistant, and that's a big deal, because a lot of times you look at the Sonos speakers and other like Bose or whatever, you're going to have that built-in Amazon assistant. And I don't know about you, but I know I have family and friends that are like, I want a good speaker, I want to be able to AirPlay to it, but I don't want a microphone. Like, they just don't want an assistant, they don't want to have to whatever. Yeah.
When I'm at CES, I literally see companies selling things that cover Amazon speakers and other ones so that they don't listen. Yeah, it's a huge thing. I see them pitched every single year. It's crazy. And so people don't want, these microphones listening in all the time on their devices. So this is designed for that.
So super exciting to have another AirPlay speaker just in the HomeKit world, in the smart home world. And so this is Dio. It's roughly, again, $79 per speaker, $239 for a 3-pack, but they have a deal going on. They launch April 5th, but if you reserve yours now, you can actually save even more. And so to learn more about it, you go to Dio Connect, that's DIO Connect.com/HomeKit Insider, and you can learn more about this awesome new AirPlay speaker, DioConnect.com/HomeKit Insider. It's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to get one of these to try them because, AirPlay, you can put one in every room of your house and then play to all of them, play to a few of them. That's the beauty of AirPlay. There you go.
Yeah. You can even use Siri and cast that way. Just say, hey, play in the living room. And if you got a Dio in your living room, it'll play right through that
That's
speaker.
Super good.
It's great.
Super good. Very cool. Well, thank you, Dio Connect, for sponsoring this episode. All right, now I have got a few light switches here, Andrew. So right after we recorded, and you schooled me a little bit on the 3-way switch situation, I I couldn't cancel my orders because they had already shipped. I tried canceling them, and Amazon is like, we'll try to cancel it. And then I got an email. They were like, no, we couldn't cancel it. So I got a bunch of switches in. I literally returned half of them that day. I drove them down to UPS. And so I think I have my final switch things. And so I'm going to go through them. I still have multiple switches, and I will discuss, again, why I got multiple and not just the same switch everywhere. One is cost. I was trying to get the least expensive switches in the most places just to save a little money on that. And then I want dimmers some places, some that are three-way switches. And so anyway, I still went with the Maris for just simple on-off, no dimmer, because it's like 20-something bucks. And I'm putting this basically in my kids' rooms, I'll be honest. These are going in my kids' rooms because they don't really care to dim. They're probably going to have light strips and stuff in their rooms anyway. So no dimmer, and it's just simple on-off, so it'll be able to control the ceiling fan and the light in those rooms, and that's it. So went with those. Then for kind of the main living room area where there's a number of three-way switches, some dimmers, I went still with the Leviton, but I didn't get any of those weird companion switches like you had said. I talked to the electrician, and he's like, yeah, you just put dumb switches on the other switches. And it's like, thanks a lot, buddy. Well, I should have talked to him first. But anyway, so I got the Leviton dimmer still for the three-way switch areas. So this is the Leviton dimmer. It is compatible with three-way. And then in the other 3- and 4-way locations is just a dumb switch. And so you won't be able to dim from those dumb switches. Dimming will have to be via Siri or on this switch, but you can just still turn on and off. And so, the Leviton one here has...
So you didn't put a dumb dimmer in those? You just put a regular...
The guy said
dumb.
He usually does not do that for whatever reason. And he does these things with smart switches, so I don't know if it's some kind of like communication issue, but he said he typically just puts dumb switches in the other locations, and I said, okay, cool. Let's just make it work. Then there are a couple places that are non-dimming lights, but I wanted them to match in the main living area. And so I did get the Leviton switch that will match, because the dumb switches that are going to be on the three-ways are going to look like this. It's just going to be, that plain rocker that you normally see. And so the Wemo one, it doesn't look like a plain rocker. The Maris doesn't. Even the Lutron, which I love, it has the little icons on it. It's not going to match. So I was really trying hard to have everything match in the main living area. So that's why I got the Leviton dimmer, the Leviton smart switch where I don't need dimming or didn't have dimming, and then the dumb switches should match these. And I do like the Levitons a lot because, there's really almost no branding. This is a sticker that comes off, and all there is just down here a little embossed, Leviton, really discreet. So that's the situation in the main living room. Three-way dimmers and the three-way switches, but the three-ways are dumb and just the one smart Leviton one. Then in my master bedroom, I did want a dimmer. And so I did go with the Wemo dimmer. It's a little cheaper than the Leviton. This is $35 for the Wemo dimmer. The Levitons are $50. And so again, really trying to be economical with it. And so I went with those dimmers. And then I also have Wemo just plain switch I have a utility room. And there's actually a three-way switch, just one switch on this side. It's not very far away. I don't even know why we did a three-way. But anyway, there's a switch when you enter on this side and a switch when you enter on the far side. We don't need dimming in the utility room. And so I just got the regular Wemo switch, non-dimming. It's actually more expensive than the dimmer. This is like $40. The dimmer is $35, but the Wemo dimmer does not support three-way. The Wemo dimmer actually says not three-way compatible. So I couldn't use this in the utility room. So that's why I went with the non-dimming Wemo, which says three-way compatible right there. So those are all the switches I got. A couple things. A bunch of people were like, Lutron, what are you doing? You should get everything Lutron. Listen, Lutron would get very expensive. And again, you can't beat a $20 switch, which I had some listeners say they have Maris switches and they're very happy with them. They said they only have to reset it once every couple months. And I was like, okay, well, We'll see. I'm
So 4 months then.
We'll
before you
see.
swap all
We'll
those
see.
out.
This is going to be a master class in, which of these switches fail first. The Wemo dimmer, the switch, the Leviton. And listen, I had Lutron for like 7 or 8 years in my old house. I will admit, Lutron, never once did I reset the hub or a switch. Never have I had to reset those. And so I understand those are the most reliable, but $60 to $70 per switch, it was going to get very pricey. And they still, again, looks wise, I do like the Leviton ones. So that's why I went with these. That's why I have a variety. I did try to keep every room consistent. So in the main living room and kitchen, it's Leviton and dumb switches. So they should all look consistent. When I go into the bedrooms, those switches will be consistent and all that. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll take questions if you have questions or more comments and make me return more things, Andrew. I was worried about the HomeKit codes, and I thought I was going to use HomePass to keep track of all the switches because once they're installed, I was like, what's going to happen? And I will say all these companies have really wisened up to this problem because they now all put the HomeKit code on the front right under the faceplate. And so all I'll have to do is take the plate off. I don't have to unscrew the switches, just take the plate off, and I'll be able to scan the HomeKit code. The Wemo has it right there. This Leviton has it right here. And even the Maris has the HomeKit code right on the front. So I won't have to take anything out. I'm not going to try to put them all into HomePass right now because it's a bunch of switches. So this is my switch army. I'm going to see how it all goes. But yeah. That was it. And you did save me a little money. I returned all of the Leviton, the companion switches, because I was like, I don't need any of these. So I returned all of those, and gonna go with this. There you go. Yeah.
Nice. That's not a bad setup. Because one of my struggles is our basement. I have all the smart bulbs, and that leaves you a struggle of what switch to use with them. Because if you put in smart switch, it's going to physically cut power to those bulbs, which I don't want. So I just need another controller, and I'm like, I just need to get another Wemo Stage scene controller, because that so far has just been the best one, and it's thread to go to the thread bulbs. So it should just be super fast. So I do need to get another one of those, because I was using the, right now I have a button, and I just said it multiple presses, but there's still some sort of there's still a delay because they do have to send that command to their hub. They're the flick buttons. So it'll go, I'll press the button, and then it has to go to the hub, and then the hub goes to the HomeKit stuff. And it's just it's slightly delayed in that process. And sometimes if the command doesn't go through, I've already walked down the stairs.
Yes.
So I'll come in the basement and I'll boop boop, turn everything on, and I'll walk halfway down, and then they don't come on.
And then you just sit on the floor
and
steam.
I'm not walking back up.
So mad.
So then I just lift up my watch and I'm like, turn on the basement lights, and it does it instantly. And I'm like, freaking button. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to swap that out for a stage scene controller. It makes it a little bit easier just for overall control too, because you have 6 commands without conditionals. So it's a little bit easier that way. So do you have any are you going to have any hue lights or anything?
Probably in my kids' rooms. My 2 boys, they love all the color stuff. My middle son has commandeered the Eve flare, the round orb. It's just in his bedroom now. He even moved the charger. I was like, he's like, what? Yeah. So they will probably be using the colored hue bulbs. But other than that, I don't think I'm going to be using smart bulbs anywhere. Again, I was trying to. I will be using it in my office or studio, whatever you want to call it. Which after Apple's announcement, everyone renamed their office to studio. I feel so. I'm going to say my studio in the new house will have some hue color bars, for behind me for the set. But probably not going with many bulbs. I really went all in on the switches. Just again, connectivity, not having to worry about what to do with the switch. So that's what I did. So not many, but some.
Okay. Yeah, because I think about things and what stuff I would ever change in my my And we like the colored ones too much, especially in the living room, because you have the benefit. One of them is the adaptive lighting. I love the adaptive lighting in things like the Eve light strip and some of the hue bulbs. it's really nice and more comfortable on your eyes that they're brighter and white during the day, and then they get a little bit warmer evening without having to do anything. And with regular bulbs, you can't do that. Like, you literally have no choices. They're just stuck with whatever you put in, whether it's really bright white or warm, anything like that. So I don't think I would want to give that part up. Additionally, just the colors are fun. Like, when we have people over and we'll like change like the mantle to like, you know, holiday colors, or when we were watching like the Browns game, we'll bring it into like an orange, like all sorts of fun stuff like that. So I really, really like the colored lights. And even when we combine them with other lights that aren't adjustable, so we have like regular lights and then the smart lights, they just combine together. It's a nice effect. And they do now have like that hue controller that you can put behind the switch and control them that way. And my hue ones are rock solid. So we have never had any issues with like the hue light stuff, turning on or off, around behind the TV, all of those things. So yeah, especially like the living room, I think I'd still want to have some of the smart bulbs rather than the smart switch. I'd probably put in that hue controller behind the switch panel, and do it that way. That way you have, like, again, best of both worlds, physical controls, and adjustable bulbs that change their temperature and stuff.
Our living room, it's all canned lighting pretty much throughout the house, and the living room specifically is going to be almost 12-foot ceilings. So that was the other consideration, is if something ever were to happen to the bulbs, like, I would have to get a ladder out and change it.
You use the suction cup thing, and you have to do that anyway with existing bulbs.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't play that card. It's the same thing. You never have to, like, I've never had to unplug a hue bulb until they go bad, and their lifespan is like 10 years or something.
All right, you got it. All right, not a good excuse.
Yeah. Well, I have to get a ladder. It'd be a whole thing.
Yeah. All right.
Ladder out.
Last thing I want to mention is clickability. These light switches are very different. This is the clickability segment. And so the Wemo switches, I've actually never had one of these newer Wemos. And so they only click on the bottom. And it's a very, very shallow and soft click. I'm going to hold this very close to the microphone and try and get it. Ready? So that's the Wemo. It doesn't click anything on top. Whereas the Leviton, this is the Leviton. You should really watch this episode on YouTube because I'm holding all the light switches up. I'm just saying, just want to throw that out there. YouTube.com/HomeKit Insider. It has clicks on the bottom, a little bit of a louder click, and on the top. And when it came to the living room area, someone who doesn't maybe like smart switches or might be averse to the idea of smart switches, I feel like the Leviton feels the most like a normal switch because you can click the bottom or the top. Yeah, like a regular rocker.
That's what I was going to say. It just, the click factor is exactly the same to me because they do just model it after their existing regular switches. So the Leviton feels exactly like a normal paddle switch.
Exactly. And the Maris one actually has a pretty nice, let me pull it out real quick. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Stuff's falling. Okay. So the Maris one actually had a pretty nice click as well. I'm taking it out of the box. Dramatic unboxing. Here, I should do this on camera. Dramatic unboxing. Here we go.
Did you ever read those articles while you unpack this? Of The Verge does like that best button series where they just have like a whole article devoted to a button and like how nice it is, how good it clicks, stuff like that. Yeah, they have. Yeah, it's a good
button.
I love.
Actually,
a good
now
button.
that I am just clicking this again, honestly, for all the heat I've given Maris over the years, this feels like a really good button. Listen to this thing. It feels like but it feels sturdy.
Plastic though.
It feels real, like
it's got a deeper
sturdy.
plastic.
Like I know I clicked that thing. And see, Maris also has the HomeKit code right there on the top. I put all these HomeKit codes on camera. Listen, none of you viewers out there try to control my home devices. I just want to say, nobody try to scan that. Okay, just want to make that clear. I don't know. This feels like sturdy. Anyway.
Speaking of those HomeKit pairing codes, someone did mention this too, and I think we've talked about this like a long time ago. But the iDevices one have the best solution for that because there's actually a little slide that comes out. So right below the paddle buttons, there's a tiny little thing. You just use your nail, and it slides out and folds down. Scan your code, and it pops back in. You don't even have to take off the faceplate to do it, and it's hidden the rest of the time. It's like unnecessary. It's like something Apple would do, just like way over engineered for something you have
But
to
it's
do
nice,
like
yeah.
one or two times.
All right, well,
But
that's the light
brilliant.
switch update. I will take pictures once they're installed and share with everyone. And then once the power's on in the house, we're like 5 to 6 weeks away. So once power's on and I pair all these things, I will report back my experience, because I'm hoping with these HomeKit codes on the front, it'll be a little bit of a better experience. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But we want to talk about the studio display in a moment, because Andrew's got a studio display in his studio, and that's been kind of I don't know, controversial, I guess you could say. And so I want to talk about that. But before we get to it, we actually have a second sponsor to thank on this episode, brand new to HomeKit Insider. This is Collide with a K, KOLIDE.com/HomeKit. Now, Collide, very interesting, super cool business they have here. Basically, if you're a small business or large business, you probably have some IT people, and they're constantly trying to help other employees, like, don't, save your passwords in a text file on your desktop. Don't do that. That's not secure. It's not good. And so what Collide does is actually integrate with Slack and actually sends automated messages to employees through Slack. It actually monitors their activity and behavior. It's totally private, totally secure. They have a whole thing on their website talking about the process. They're open source, so you can even see how Collide works. But they actually send messages to employees that are like, hey, you've had these files in your downloads folder for 3 or 4 months. They contain sensitive material. Do something about it. And they actually make suggestions on what to do about it. Super cool. And so it's perfect for organizations that care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to lock down their employees' devices. The alternative that a lot of companies do is use something like Jamf or other mobile device management platforms, which are good for some things. But if you just lock everything down so much, it almost makes devices frustrating to use, and employees get frustrated because they can't use their devices like they expect they should. Well, Collide will enable them to use their devices unlocked down, so tightly, and it educates users about security and device management and directs them, the employees, to fix important problems themselves. And so you can learn more about it, collide.com/HomeKit, to sign up today. And other things they do, instructing developers to set passphrase and unencrypted SSH keys. It offers those recommendations, finding plain two-factor backup codes and teaching users how to store them securely. A lot of times you set up two-factor and they're like, save these backup codes. And it's like, okay, let me copy and paste that in a note and put it on my desktop. No, don't do that. That gives people access to your stuff. And it will convince employees to uninstall evil browser extensions that may sell their browser history. I don't know if you've had family or friends that they're like, my Chrome goes to yahoo.com whenever I open it. It's like, that's malware, and you did that to yourself. And Collide will help them find those nefarious actors. So I don't know. What do you think, Andrew? This sounds pretty cool.
No, I love this. And my
Right.
favorite thing is the fact that it's all integrated directly into Slack. Like, you can do other things like this, or you can even schedule them out from an IT department to get these like alerts and stuff to users. But like, Slack is where a lot of employees live now, and they're getting their regular communication there. So to bring in that messaging into Slack and to update them about these
Yes.
things is brilliant. It is awesome. It is such a great idea to help all of your actual like users, employees out,
Right,
and
exactly.
to stop these things before they become a problem, without having to go the route
Absolutely.
of a full-on
So you can try
MDM
Collide
solution.
with all of its features on an unlimited number of devices for free. Try it for free for 14 days on an unlimited number of devices. No credit card is even required to do this free trial. You can try it out at collide.com/HomeKit. That's KOLIDE.com/HomeKit. Try for free for 14 days. Thanks, Collide, for sponsoring this episode. Now, Andrew, I've been seeing a lot of studio display videos. I've been seeing it from all the people. Some are like, this is my favorite display ever. This has changed my life. I've reached nirvana because of this display. And others are like, this thing is garbage. Don't buy it. The plug doesn't come out of the back. So, Andrew, you have one of these in your possession. I want to know, what do you think?
Man, I've got opinions on this, like apparently everyone else does. Honestly, I love this display. I really do. It's everything that I wanted it to be. The people who are I don't know. The people who complain about it seem to have some grudge against this piece of hardware. The only bad thing, the only real criticism that I can see with this monitor is that it is pricey. But even then, comparatively to its only competition, I don't think it's pricey. Just in general, if you're an average user, it is pricey. But Apple does usually charge a premium on accessories. They sell freaking keyboards for $200. So that shouldn't be surprising somebody that it is a little more expensive. But there's effectively like no competition in the space for a 5K display. I am okay with the price point and the fact that it still came in at what, like $1,500, $1,600 for your base model. I do not think is awful. Like, it's high, but it's not awful. And some things like, oh, the display, the cord doesn't come out. It does come out. It just needs to like come out through Apple, so they were able to make it super thin, because otherwise they're going to make it super thick and put a dang Mickey Mouse connector in the back, and nobody wants that. So like, yeah, they're trying to compromise here, and you can just go, like, you can go to Apple. Apple will even switch the stands on it. That's another criticism, is that you can't swap the stands yourself, but you at least can go to Apple. Like, if you get one and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I do want to use a VESA mount. I didn't get one with a VESA mount initially. I'm screwed. No, you can take it to Apple and they can switch it to a VESA mount version and you're good to go. It's a little less convenient than doing it yourself, but it's not like an end of the world problem. And people who need, like, you're going to generally know what you want when you get it. There's very few situations where you're going to get a stand and all of a sudden switch to VESA, or have a VESA mount and then switch to a stand. It's just not super likely. So for the most of the criticisms that I've seen have been unfounded. I think the speakers are for sure better than what I have on my MacBook Pro. I set them both side by side. I listened to a bunch of different mixes and tests. I listened to bass test comparisons between the two machines, and my MacBook Pro was almost embarrassingly weak bass. Like, always thought it sounded great. And I put it next to this, and it definitely sounded better, like the Mac or the Studio Display did. A mid-range set, like a $400 set of desktop speakers, still probably going to sound better, but you could get the spatial audio effects and everything like that. So speakers were good. I'm happy with the display quality. My only criticism of the display quality is maybe having better HDR support, but I know me and Wes have both reviewed HDR displays that have been garbage. They'll be 200, 300, 400 nits, and this is at least 600 nits. So even though it's not HDR, it still has more dynamic range and is brighter than HDR displays that are out there. That's because most displays are supporting HDR10, which is a terribly weak spec. And a lot of bargain TVs that support HDR are supporting HDR10, because you can do almost anything you want and still get certified as HDR10 support. And as an HDR display or TV, literally something like 250, 300 nits of brightness, and they're like, yeah, we're HDR. You're not. You're garbage. And this is better than those displays. So even if it doesn't have HDR, like, it doesn't have Dolby Vision, which is the much better version of HDR. There's a much tighter spec for developers, creators, manufacturers to follow. And yes, it does not have Dolby Vision support. And if you were comparing it to a Dolby Vision display, yes, there is more of a difference there. So that's the one thing I would have liked to see. But compared to other HDR monitors, it's still good. Like, I got thoughts. I really like it. There's very few criticisms that are... There's nothing on this that's a deal breaker to me. It's a gorgeous piece of Apple kit that works great with all of your Apple devices. The criticisms that there are very minor. So for me,
what display were you using before this, like with your Mac Pro?
I've used so many displays, to be honest. I've used a lot of displays. And a lot of them were just cycling through as I'm testing and then sending them back. The two that I've been using regularly more recently was the LG like 2K 4K or 2K 5K ultra wide display, which is a Thunderbolt 3 display. That one's very nice, but it wobbles a whole lot, which is one of my more frustrations with it. But otherwise, it looks pretty nice. Still kind of plasticky, white plastic back, but a generally good monitor. And then I was using a basic 4K display from ViewSonic, which, nice, nothing wrong with it, nothing super exciting about it either. Kind of like your standard mid-range 4K monitor, more plastic build and stuff like that. Because honestly, I haven't had a good display. I was using, for a while, that still Thunderbolt display, the Apple Thunderbolt. So I have not had a good display. Like, nothing that I was like excited about. With the LG one, like, I couldn't change things, and I even tried like that the monitor control app, and it didn't work that great for me. The joystick was finicky, all sorts of random things. And then eventually I had like a line of dead pixels going down the display, so that was a problem. so all sorts of things. I honestly never had a display that I liked since the Thunderbolt display, and this is the
Yeah.
first one that I actually enjoy using. And I have two different ones. I picked up this
Oh,
one to
yeah.
test out with the Nano Etch Surface because I didn't try that out on the Pro Display XDR, and it is crazy cool. Like it is a slight you lose a little bit definition because it like any matte finish, any anti-glare coating on stuff, you do get like a not I wouldn't say a fuzziness, but it does reduce the sharpness around the edges of stuff just because of that coating. But it's a really really cool looking finish. But my main one that's not behind me does have the height adjustable display, and that is awesome. It is beautiful. It's so well balanced. It's a really really cool stand, but just with a normal glass on the front. It's really pretty, and that's the one that I'm going to
Oh
stick
man.
with.
See, I
for
did not
the daily
buy
use.
one. I did go to an Apple store to look at one, and build quality is a thing. We need to keep that in consideration. And when I saw the studio display at the Apple store, they didn't have the height adjustable one on display. It was just the tilt. But I went to just tilt that screen. Man, it felt so good. Like it was so sturdy and like tight. And when I tilted it, it stayed exactly where I put it. And like that is part of the benefit of this hardware engineering. And so, the panel itself, I hear a lot of the reviewers talking about the panel and how the panel is no better than the 27-inch iMac that came out, 7 or 8 years ago. But I also think it's hilarious that for the last 8 years, everyone has literally asked for exactly this. Everyone asked, just give us the 27-inch iMac in a standalone display and we will all buy it and we will all love it. And Apple was eventually like, okay, here you go. And now it's like, this panel is garbage. And it's like, okay, it's not ProMotion and it's not, like the XDR brightness. It doesn't have 1,000 nits of brightness, but this is what we all asked for at a price that honestly, I remember speculation before this thing came out. Like if Apple ever releases a consumer display, it'll be around $2,000. This is actually less than that expectation. And starts at $1,600.
Yeah.
If you want to just say, give me an iMac screen, that's all you get is just the tilt. iMac doesn't height adjust. iMac is just tilt. That's
Yeah. And I just don't understand what everyone else is wanting. The only things that I've ever heard people say they want out of the display is, I want that 1,000 nits of HDR brightness and ProMotion. Like those are the only things, and those are still fairly recent for Apple. Just adding them into the MacBook Pros, like not even long ago. And I wouldn't expect them in a display like this size range, like they haven't added to the iMac or anything like that. And I don't think most people care about ProMotion. I personally mostly don't care about ProMotion. I like it on my phone when I'm like interacting with it, but on my computer, I don't notice much of a difference at all. Like there are times, but it's not a huge thing for me that I'm going to.
And it would totally jack up the
lie about
cost.
this
I mean,
display
look
not
at the
having
cost of the XDR. Yeah, exactly.
For a
And,
display this size,
Apple
yeah.
has the XDR for sale. And so while it doesn't have ProMotion, if you want that HDR experience with all the brightness, like you can go buy that. I mean, that's an option, but that's not what the studio display is for. And I will say too, I am using the LG 4K Ultrafine, which everybody rags on 4K like, it's not pixel perfect Mac icons. Like, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess. And then, so this one is 24 inches. It's a 24-inch display, so it's 3 inches less than the new studio. The panel is still very good. The display is pretty much like the 5K, just smaller. This one I bought, and you can still get it renewed from Amazon for $655. And so if you want an like Apple color accurate, good display, but not spend the studio display money, these are options that you have out there too. Like you can get an LG Ultrafine for $650.
You can buy a used LG Ultrafine 5K display because everyone is selling them now for like $700 on eBay. Like, which is not bad. Like that would be a better alternative. I would never tell somebody to go buy an LG Ultrafine 5K at sticker price. It's like a $300 price difference, and I do not think that is worth it. Like, I think the studio display for $300 more, you get a lot better display. I mean, build quality alone, the fact that that thing is all plastic versus an all metal design, let alone the improved specs between camera, speakers, I think there's a better viewing angles. It's
Yeah.
slightly brighter, slightly more power delivery to your Mac. Better display for $300 price difference is not much, and that's the only competition that Apple
Yeah,
has.
and it's almost like
direct
the way
competition
people are
with
talking
5K
about the
display.
studio display. It's like Apple is forcing people to buy this thing at gunpoint. It's like, oh, it's just terrible. I mean, can't believe it. It's like you don't have to buy it. I mean, you can use whatever monitor you have now with the new Mac Studio. Like that's what I did. I got my LG 4K using it with the Mac Studio. Still great. But if you care about I think what it looks like, which I think it sounds like a shallow thing, but if you want something that aesthetically pleases your eye while it's sitting on your desk that you stare at for 8 hours a day, there's a benefit to that. The hardware design, yeah, it's a premium, but if that's what someone wants to get, you're not getting a bad display for $1,600. You're still getting a very good display that also looks great, and hardware design, sturdiness, all of that. It's really good. So, yeah, I don't get the outrage.
Yeah. This is also maybe a small thing, I don't know. For me, I thought it was important, but the
Right.
wake time is crazy. When I was comparing, I got multiple Mac Studios here, and I got one connected to the studio display and one connected to a third-party display. And you go to wake up on the third-party one, sometimes it doesn't wake up even. I have to click the mouse or click the shift key on the keyboard a couple times for it to wake the display, or sometimes I even have to press the button on the display to get it to realize that wake up, stupid. But in best case scenario, it's probably a 5-second wait time for your machine to wake up in the morning. So let's see. I haven't touched this Mac Studio in at least a day. Got the display right here behind me. Let's just see how quickly it can wake up. Button. 1, 2. Is it connected? Okay.
Sleep.
2.5 seconds maybe from. It is at least twice as fast as any of my other displays. Let alone after being off for a day. I'd probably have to hit the buttons on my other display, the actual button on the display to wake it up, to get it to realize what's going on. So the wake from sleep is shockingly fast, and especially if it's less time than that. That's a pretty cold sleep that it's been in for, over a day. But coming back to it, it's really fast.
Oh.
See, I wasn't off. Let's see.
Yeah, see, that was pretty much
instant at that point.
That was the one feature though, because my LG
sleep,
Ultrafine, I do have to click, spacebar, 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 wait. And once I heard that was a thing, that studio display woke up much quicker, I was like, maybe after all. Because honestly, it is frustrating. You sit down, especially sometimes I'm sitting down a minute before we record a podcast or something, and I'm like, let's go. And my LG is just come on, let's go. That was me pretending to snore for our audio listeners. That wasn't an error. But anyway, okay. Well, I was curious because I'm seeing it in person at the Apple Store just very quickly. I was like, I like this display. This is a very nice display. And if I want to spend the money on it, I think I will. And that just, I don't know, for some reason, so many people, it's so split. I don't know if I've ever seen an Apple product so split. Yeah.
It is weirdly divisive because I know internally we have at least one person on our team who hates the speakers. He thinks they sound like garbage. And I read 3 reviews and these are the best monitor speakers we've ever tested. It's so divisive, and I don't understand how there's such a wide range of opinions on it. So much so actually that in our studio display review, I don't know if this will be up by the time people are watching this, but in our review, we actually had to put 2 different ratings because there was no consensus on how good this was or wasn't. So we have two different opinions at the end and 2 different ratings on this display. Yeah, so I think people are going to make up their own minds. It's definitely for Apple users, and don't do that. If you're Windows, don't buy this. Go buy something else. It'll still work, but don't do it. But for Apple users, this is what this is designed for. Apple designed this for its users, and I think it delivered pretty much everything that it needed to deliver. I'm happy with pretty much everything here. There's small quirks with it, but this is the first display that I've liked using since the Thunderbolt.
Yeah, well, which again, sure,
or
if
the
you want to
Pro
spend
Display
$6,000, go for it.
Yeah, I don't got money bleeding from my nose.
All the places to get money. Yes, it is not bleeding from the nose. Me neither. All right. Well, listeners, you should look out for our review on the studio display for sure. Because anyway, and listeners, let us know what you think. Maybe you've seen a studio display in person. Maybe you got one. We'd love to know what you think. Andrew and I, our Twitter handles are in the show notes. Reach out there. Let us know what home projects. Yeah.
Send your opinions. Tell us why we're wrong or very right.
Both
I mean,
and.
we're right.
Both and.
But,
And
tell
we'll
us.
put link.
Tell us.
Yeah, everything. We'll put links to everything in show notes. Let us know what home
fight all of
projects you
you.
got going on. We had a couple listener questions that we will get to next week, or listener recommendations, actually, some products that they sent to us. So we'll do that soon. And again, YouTube, we're doing a lot of visual stuff on the show. So youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Subscribe and watch the show there. Enjoy. You could see Andrew and I shucking and jiving over here. Yeah, there you go. Shucking and jiving. Anyway, well, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, that's not a shimmy. I don't know.
Some of Steven's shimmies.
See, listen, you're gonna have to go jump over to YouTube because I don't even know what I just did.
Like
and
a
you're gonna
hula
have to tell
dance,
me.
maybe.
So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.